I really miss library sales. Hi BookTube, it's Kim at Kate Becker's Books. Tag Tuesday, and I found a tag that I liked. I really liked. I think it's from last October 2019. It originated on the channel Read by Jess, or I think it might be Read by Jess. I'll link it down below and you can take a look at the video. This is the Library Loves book tag. All about libraries. If you know me at all, you know that I love my library and I love library book sales. Not just because I can get a ton of books cheap, but I can support my libraries, and it's not just my own local library, it's the town next to me and the town next to that and the town next to that and the town 2 hours away and a town in Vermont. So I love going to library sales, and I look for them for reasons to take road trips. If you've watched my videos, you know that. So why not do a tag about libraries and how much I love them? Prompt number 1, when did you first go to the library and get a library card? I am of the age where in my little suburban rural town in Ohio called Streetsboro, which is right next to Kent, I think, as in Kent State University, we didn't have a library for a while, and we got books from the bookmobile. I'm going to try to find a picture and put it in the corner. I loved the bookmobile, and if you're too young to remember what that is, it was a renovated bus driven by somebody who probably loved books or volunteered or whatever they did. And there were shelves built into the bus filled with books, kids' books, everything, adults, reference, nonfiction, everything you could imagine. And it was almost like, for me, it was like hearing the Ding Dong song when the ice cream man came down your road. I'm like, oh my God, the bookmobile is here. It was so exciting and thrilling for me. That was my first experience with renting or taking out books. I don't remember if they had books to purchase because they kept coming back and you would bring your book back. So I don't remember that part. Eventually, Streetsboro got a library, and I was probably 6 or 7 when the library was done. And my father brought me there, and the children's section was right in the front corner. My eyes lit up. I couldn't believe this brand new, sparkling clean building was filled with books. I started off in the children's section and loved it. It was comfortable. And right through a doorway and around the corner was the library with the stacks and stacks of books. And I was just captivated. I stood there. I remember standing there and just looking around, not believing that there were shelves filled with books everywhere. Absolutely loved it. So I was probably 6 or 7 when I got my library card. Prompt number 2 is, how often do you use your library? A lot. More if it would be open. So we use it all the time, and I say we because my daughter and I go to the library a lot, and it's really quiet. So my husband and I, sometimes he comes with us, and he loves to sit and read magazines and just enjoy the quiet, and he'll sit and wait for our daughter, and but we all go to the library quite a bit. She's a voracious reader as well. So one of the best things about my library is they have an excellent new release section. Even though my library is quite small, I've been really impressed with the new releases that they usually have out, and I almost never struggle to find a book that I really want to read that's just come out. There was a point where we were going to the library every week. Sometimes we go longer than that because we do have so many of our own books at home. There's a piece of me that doesn't want to take out a book that somebody else may want to take out because I have so much to read at home. And a lot of people who use the library don't have the advantage of going out and buying a book whenever they feel like it. So, have you ever had late or lost library books? I've called myself a library criminal in the past. Late library books all the time. All the time. I forget. They don't have library cards anymore. It's all digital. So I get my printout. I have my printout, stuff it in my purse. It usually ends up way in the bottom in a wrinkle. I know when they're due. It's 3 weeks. I don't always remember. I put them in my car, and I mean to stop at the library, and I have good intentions, but We always have late library books. We don't have lost. We've never lost library books. However, I am and have been and could be a library criminal because there have been 2 library books that I have been tempted, highly tempted, to keep and lie and tell the library that, oh my gosh, it was so damaged, it fell in the bathtub. I don't ever take baths. And I can't bring it back. I'll replace it because I was so enthralled with the hardcover. The new release, nobody had read it yet. It was covered in the plastic, which I love. It's one of my weird bookish pet peeves. Not a pet peeve, it's one of my weird bookish loves is that plastic Mylar cover. So yeah, I was tempted, and there's 2 books that I almost kept. One of them is this copy of Sarah Winman's Tin Man, this sunflower copy, hardcover. It's just gorgeous. And I loved it when it had the plastic cover because it was crinkly. It's so stupid, I know, but it's stupid, but never mind. So I was tempted to keep this one. I did not. I bought my own copy. And then this one, Tim Johnston's Descent. This again is my own copy. I did buy myself a copy, but it is a remainder library book, and it was in perfect condition, so I bought this used, but I was tempted again to hang on to my library's copy of it because I loved it so much. I feel like I just went to confession. What's your favorite thing about your library? I think I mentioned it. They have an excellent new release section. Fiction and nonfiction are right next to each other. So I will go to fiction first and look at those stacks, and then I'll just turn around and look at nonfiction and look at those stacks. My library's nonfiction section is a whole floor above the fiction section, and so I go up and down and roam each of the sections, but they really do a great job in purchasing new release books, and I really love that. I prefer to read new releases, the ones that I want to read, via the library because it's almost a test drive. I don't want to spend, up to $30 on a new release hardcover because I love hardcovers until I know that I'm going to like it. If I read it from the library and I love the book, I almost always go out and find myself my own copy. Let's see. 5th prompt. Are you a browser or do you plan what you're taking out? I'm typically a browser. Once in a while, I'll go online and see if a new release is available, and I will go and get it. And while I'm there, I will browse and probably bring home 6 more. But I don't usually plan ahead. That's almost the fun of it for me, is to see what's in the new release shelves. There was a time when I was doing a crap load of research, and so I would look again in advance to see, hey, do you have books on this topic? Do you have this specific book? This would really be useful for papers and research and that type of thing. But typically, no, I'm a browser and like surprises. Let's see. Name a book you took a chance on from the library. Okay, my daughter and I have this fun game where when we go to the library, she picks out a book that I have to read, and I pick out a book that she has to read. And we have 2 vetoes. So on the 3rd book, if we've already vetoed 2 other books, we have to read the 3rd one. And one day she did that for me, and we got to my 3rd book, and she picked one out, and I was like, oh, crap, now I have to read this. She picked a book for me that I never would have picked for myself, and I ended up loving it. This is Tuesday Nights in 1980 by Molly Prentice. Look at that cover! Look at this. And when she gave it to me, I loved the cover, but then I looked at the description and I'm like, ugh. Very quickly, welcome to Soho at the onset of the 80s, a gritty, not yet gentrified playground for artists and writers looking to make it in the big city. Among them, James Bennett, a synesthetic art critic for the New York Times, whose unlikely condition enables him to describe art in profound ways. Raul Engales, an exiled Argentinian painter running from his past and the dirty war that has enveloped his country. And Lucy Eliason, a small-town girl with larger-than-life dreams. I'm almost never attracted to books set in New York City that have anything to do with starving artists and the art scene, but I loved this book, and it was such a great surprise. Now, ironically, after I read the book and returned it, we went back to the library a month or 2 later, And it's a small library. They have a very small shelf in the front for books that they are selling. And this is the book that I read from my library. They were selling it, and I bought it for $1. And I think it's pristine. And I think I may have been the only one to check it out. So super happy to buy that one from my local library. Let's see. The next prompt, what is the best book you've read from the library? I've read so many great books, but this one, Tim Johnson's Descent, this is a literary thriller, and it's the story of a family of 4, mom and dad and daughter and son. The daughter is almost 18, graduating from high school. She's getting ready for college. She is a track star. They go away for a last family trip into the mountains, and she wants to go for a morning run, and her brother gets on his bike and he's accompanying her. They run up the mountain, bike up the mountain, and she turns a corner and disappears. The brother, the son, falls or gets injured somehow, and his sister is just gone. I was blown away by this book. This was a recommendation from one of my Critical Chick friends, and we both gave it 5 stars. It was chilling and written so well. This was one of the ones I almost kept from the library. I ended up buying my own copy, but I didn't think I would have even liked this book, but it's one of my favorite books of the last 5 years. I'm reading the prompts off my tablet, so that's why I keep looking down. Have you ever taken the same book out multiple times? Not really. I'm not a rereader. My daughter has. She rereads all the time. I'm not a rereader. Any books that I've read that I've loved, I usually keep. So if I've loved a book from the library, I buy it for myself. So no, not really. Have you ever read a good book that takes place in a library? I don't think I have. I've read a lot of books that take place in bookstores. For the life of me, I can't think of one that takes place in a library, so I'm going to have to answer no to that one. Next one, have you used your library's ebook or audio options? Yes, I have used my ebook options through Overdrive or Libby. Not very often. I just actually read one last month, I think, from the ebook collection. Again, if I read ebooks, especially from the library, and I love them, I'll probably buy myself a physical copy. I've taken out a few audiobooks. I don't enjoy audiobooks, so I didn't really like them. I didn't listen to the whole audiobook. The only audiobook I've ever listened to start to finish is Middlemarch, but I was also reading the print book at the same time. It was glorious, and I did my review on Middlemarch after in beginning of April, and it was a glorious book, a glorious audiobook. It was narrated by Juliet Stevenson. Oh, go and look. I'll link my video of that review. It was a glorious experience of reading it and listening to it at the same time. So yes, especially now during isolation, it's a perfect time to take advantage of the Overdrive app or the Libby app. There's also Hoopla. Hoopla tends to have a lot of older books and backlist books. Excellent resources. What is the best library you have been to? The New York Public Library. And I'm going to put pictures here because a few years ago I went to visit one of my best friends, Elizabeth, in New York City. She lives in New Jersey, right over the border. And so we went to New York City, and one of our primary stops was the New York Public Library. The lions out front, the ceiling, the art, the woodwork, everything about it, the size, it was just, again, I'm going to use the word glorious. It was glorious. I ended up in the, I think there's a Jewish studies room. I ended up in there. There was a lot of theology that I just wanted to stay in there for the day. It's a very quiet place, though, so Elizabeth and I could not act excited when we were in that room. I found text in Greek. It was just amazing. I absolutely love that library, and I hope I have enough pictures so you can see how beautiful it is if you haven't already been there yourself. The last prompt is, what would make you use your library more? If it was open, but I know it will reopen. And we could probably use the library more. Anybody could. We have an advantage that we collect our books and we have them here. I have so many I can read. I don't think there's anything that needs to motivate us to use it more, but I will definitely continue to use it for new releases. I will definitely keep my eye out for what they're purchasing. My library is the people there are amazing. They're wonderful. I love going there simply to ask them questions. They've helped me look up all kinds of things. They've helped me suggest books. They have looked at prize lists for me or found a book that I just could not remember the title of. Yes, I don't remember the title, but it's blue. And when I've checked out books and returned them, they'll tell me, oh my gosh, I love this book. And so we'll chat about it. So I just love the community aspect of my local library. And again, the new release section and all of it. I just love it. Before I end, I wanted to show you the stack of books that I still have out from my library because I'm not returning them. They're not charging overdue fines. But I wanted to show you the stacks that I still have. I have 3 books that I've read already. One of them is Jacqueline Woodson's Red at the Bone, which I really loved. The other one is Jeanette Winterson's Frankenstein, which was one of the friggin' weirdest books I've ever read. I finished it. I don't think I loved it, but it was super interesting. And this one is She Said by Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey about the chronicling the Harvey Weinstein takedown, and also has a little bit about the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh, a little bit in there at the end of the book. I have a stack. I have 4 that I DNF'd. This one is Jeanette Winterson's Why Be Happy When You Can Be Normal. I liked her novel better, Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit. This is her memoir about the same topics, written 25 years later. Crazy Brave by Joy Harjo. She's a poet, beautiful writing, not for me. It was a little too mystical and not transparent enough, talking about her early life, her childhood, abuse that she endured. It was not for me. It's a beautifully written book, but this one is Rebecca Mead's My Life in Middlemarch. I took it out as I was finishing Middlemarch, and I really started to love it. However, she talks about other George Eliot books that I haven't read yet and want to, so I didn't want to be spoiled. So I put this down. I will probably pick it back up at a future time. This book I hated, Joan Didion's Blue Nights. I read The Year of Magical Thinking and loved it after the sudden death of her husband. This one takes place after the death of her only daughter. This book I thought was so self-centered, and she does a lot of name dropping. She does a lot of brand dropping. I didn't care. I wanted to read about her emotional process with grief after the death of her daughter, and I wanted to know more about her daughter. I wanted to hear more of her story. Really did not like that book. And the only unread book I still have, which I do plan on reading, is Patrick Rad and Keith Say Nothing. It is a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland, talking about the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Really interested in this, and I've heard very good things about that particular book. So that's it. Again, write a comment, say hello, tell me how you feel about your libraries and what you've checked out, how often you use them. Would love to talk more about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.